guys, Ben from SnowBoardGamer. I got a comment on my channel yesterday from Pam Richardson that says, what board game would you recommend for my family of 4 boys ages 7 to 16 that we could play together? I have to say I've never heard of some of the games I've seen on your channel. What I'm going to do today is go through 10 games that are good intro games for a family with kids ages 7 to 16 that are good intro games to modern board gaming. I chose games that are not terribly complex. Some of the other ones I like to play go more complex. I like all variety of games. I like the easier, the less complex, the more complex. I'm going to do these in no particular order. Number 10. I'm going to start with Settlers of Catan. Now, Settlers of Catan is one of my all-time favorites. It came out in 1996, and it's one of the games that got me into modern board gaming. It plays in about 45 minutes to an hour, and it is a 4-player game. They also have a 5 to 6 player expansion, which I have and I fit in the box here. So this game will go up to 6 players, and it's one of the most unique concepts for a board game. The board is dynamic. So it's got all of these hexagon-shaped tiles here. You lay them out in a grid, and the tiles have different pictures on them. They have wood, clay, ore, and sheep, pastures for sheep. And so you create this dynamic board, and one of the cool things about it is that no 2 game of Settlers of Catan is ever the same. Each person has their own color, and you're trying to collect resources based on these cards here. You're building roads along the way, building settlements, upgrading them to cities, and trying to get to 10 victory points before everyone else. You collect resources, you trade them, there's a robber that can steal resources. It's a very fun game, great game to get your kids started on board gaming. Settlers of Catan retails for about $50. It's not a cheap board game. Now, you can find it for cheaper on sale sometimes. They actually sell it at Target. Target lately has started carrying more of these types of games. You can get it at Target. Amazon, I believe it's usually about $35, $37-ish. And then the 5 to 6 player expansion, I want to say, is around $20. I'll put links in the descriptions for all of these games if you're interested in purchasing them. Number 9 is a game that came out last year in 2015 called Codenames. This is a party game, so you have to have a minimum of 4 players because you split into teams of 2. Each team has a spy master. There are a bunch of these cards, so you lay out a grid of 25 cards here that have different names: chocolate, ruler, wink, strike, button. And so these are the names of the code names on your team. And then there are these cards that have grids that show the red team versus the blue team. And so the 2 spy masters give 1-word clues to their team, trying to get them to guess which of the words are on their team without hitting the black assassin space, which is game over and the other team wins. It plays in about 15 minutes. Great party game. Starts at 4 players, but it goes up to however many players you want. It's basically 2 teams. And this one is fun because it kind of reminds me of the old game like Taboo, but much more strategic because you're trying to think of 1-word clues that can relate to multiple words. So your team wants to try and guess all of their words before the other team. And if you accidentally give a clue that relates to one of their words and they guess it, they get a point. So you have to be very careful on the clues you give. Codenames retails for around $20, maybe $18. I've seen it as low as $10 to $12 on sale. So it's not an expensive board game. I'm going to pull out one that is one of my all-time favorites. This is right up there with Settlers of Catan. And you can see this game has gotten a lot of playtime with the edges rubbed down. This is Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride won the German Board Game of the Year in 2004. Settlers of Catan won it back when it came out in the mid-90s. So Ticket to Ride the concept of it is very simple, but the strategy goes deep. It plays in about 45 minutes, and each person has 45 trains. I keep them in these plastic bins. Goes up to 5 players, and the board is a big map of the United States. So this is what the board looks like. And so you can see you've got all these different cities that you're trying to connect. Little Rock to Nashville has 3 white spaces. So you're going through the game and you're collecting cards. You're collecting the different colored cards to be able to put your trains down in between the cities so that you can complete destinations. For example, this is New York to Miami, and at the end of the game, if you can connect your train between those 2 cities, you get 10 points. There's a catch though. If you don't complete a ticket, then it's negative at the end of the game. And the board starts to become congested, it starts to get very stressful, but it's just a lot of fun. I've played a lot of games of Ticket to Ride. Now, if you get this game retails, I think the retail price is $50, but you can get it for $30 to $35 if you catch it on sale. The other thing I would highly recommend is getting the 1910 expansion for it. It comes with the full-size cards instead of the little mini cards that come with the regular game. And it comes with an extra bonus card and a few more route tickets. It just makes the game a little bit more enjoyable. And that expansion is $15 maybe. Number 7. I'm gonna do a card game next called Love Letter. Love Letter is for 2 to 4 players. It plays better with 4 than 2, I think. They just came out with a deluxe version that actually goes up to 8 players. So that one is, I think, around $30. This one here is $10 to $15, pretty cheap. The concept of it is quite simple. You just have 16 cards. That's it. It's a deck of 16 cards. And you're trying to deliver the letter to the princess. And the cards are numbered 1 through 8, and there's a different spread of cards. One of them has 5, and the others have 2 of each, and some of them just have 1. At the end of the day, whoever has the highest number, which represents the person closest to the princess is number 8. At the end of the round, whoever has the highest number wins, and you win one of these tokens, and the first 1 to 4 wins the game. It's very, very fun. Some of the cards let you guess what card another player has, and if you can guess what card they have, then they're out of the game. You only have 1 card at a time, and on your turn, you draw a card, and then you play a card in front of you, and you do what it says. It says 20 minutes of playing time, so that's about right. 15, 20 minutes of playing time for Love Letter. Okay, number 6. I'm going to go with a game called Camel Up. Now, some argue about whether it's Camel Up or Camel Cup. It's actually Camel Up. I looked up on their website. This is just a really fun, kind of a silly game, but yet there's a good amount of strategy involved in it. I like to think of this game as half party and half European style, or half strategy. We've got 5 camels, and they're racing around a track, and they're in different positions. And the fun part about it is that when they move on top of another camel, they stack up, which is why the game's called Camel Up. Throughout the course of the game, you've got this pyramid here, and you're rolling the dice for different colors. So in that case, blue would move 1 space, white would move 2, and would go 1, 2. If yellow were to roll 2, for example, it would move 1, 2. The position of the camels in the race is constantly changing. And what you're doing is you've got 4 different things you can do on your turn. You can take what's called a leg betting tile, and you're basically saying, if you take a blue one, I think blue's gonna be in first at the end of this leg. 1 leg is once all 5 of the dice have rolled, and the camels all move once. So once all the dice have been rolled, then whoever was correct, in this case white is in first and orange is in last, everyone would get paid out. You put the leg betting tiles back. They're pyramid tiles, which allows you to roll the dice. Each one gives you different amounts of coins, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most amount of coins wins. Everybody also starts with the same 5 cards, which represent the 5 camels, and so you can place one here, betting on the overall winner or the overall loser, and that's another way to make coins. And then you've also got these little tiles that you can put on the board itself, and then when a camel lands on it, it either pushes them forward or moves them back, and you get a coin also. So there's a bunch of different ways you can earn coins and try and win the game of Camel Up. This game is a lot of fun, and it goes up to 8 players. It plays in about 20 minutes. I want to say Camel Up is somewhere in the $25 to $35 range. Number 5, I'm going to go with another card game called Sushi Go. This one plays 2 to 5 players, although they just recently came out with the Sushi Go Party, which I have not played yet, but I've heard it is an improvement on this and actually brings the player count up to 8 players. You've got all these cards in here, which are pieces of sushi. You've got chopsticks, dumplings, maki roll, tempura, wasabi. It plays in about 15 minutes, very quick. Everyone gets a hand of cards. You pick a card to play, put it face down in front of you, and pass your cards. And then at the same time, everyone plays their card in front of them. And the cards have different things. So this one, for example, the sashimi, if I collect 3 of these cards, I get 10 points. The tempura, if I collect 2 of these, I get 5 points. The dumplings, depending on how many dumplings you get, they progressively give you more points. And so you're playing these cards, trying to collect points, and meanwhile watching everyone else at the table to see what they're playing, and that might affect what card you want to play to try and get points. For example, if you see everyone going for greens, you may not want to do that because everyone's going to be fighting over the green cards. So this is a very cool concept of, it's basically card drafting. You pick one and pass it, pick up the next one, pick one, pass it, play it. That's where it gets the description, the pick and pass card game. This one is just a lot of fun. Now this one goes up to 5 players, not 6, but it's a lot of fun. Number 4, I'm going to do a party game next. This one is called Telestrations. I have the 12-player party pack. So this one goes up to 12 players. It's around $30 for about $15 to $18. You can get the 6-player family edition, which only goes up to 6 players. This is essentially, if you remember the game of Pictionary where you have to draw out words, it's kind of like a combination of Pictionary and the telephone game, where you whisper something in someone's ear and by the time it makes it all the way around, it's not the same word. So you have all these cards here, and you draw a card, everyone draws a card, and there's a bunch of words on it, and then you roll a die, and whichever number it lands on, you draw that. So in this case, marching band. You could draw a marching band, and then you draw a marching band here, and then you flip it up and you pass it to the person on your left. Then they have to look at your drawing and guess what they think it is. And then once they guess it, you pass it around again, and the next person has to draw what the previous person guessed. And then they do another drawing, and so on and so forth, and it just keeps going around the table. The more people you have, the more fun this game is, especially when you play it with 12. By the time the drawing gets all the way back to you, it's just hilarious, and it's never the same thing. Every once in a while it is if it's a really easy word, but most of the time it totally gets mutated, and it's just a lot of fun and laughter, and goes great with big party groups. Number 3, I'm going to do Colt Express. This is a fascinating game. I love it. It's basically train. You can see there's train robbers on the train. It's a depiction of the old Wild Wild West and train robbers. So what you do on this one is everyone is a train robber. And the board is not even a board. It's these cardboard trains you put together. Here's a locomotive, and depending on the number of players, you have different number of locomotives. It goes from 2 to 6 players, and this one is just really cool. You've got these wooden meeples, which are little train dudes with guns, and they represent the train robbers. Jewels that are going to be placed along the train, and everyone gets a deck of the same 10 cards. So you've got the same 10 actions that you can do. For example, you can shoot at the other train robbers, and then they take a bullet. You can punch them, and then they drop the loot. There's a loot card where you pick up loot. There's a sheriff card where you move the sheriff, and this is a neutral sheriff who, if he runs into the same car with you, he shoots you, and you get a bullet card. And so everyone starts with the same set of cards in their deck. They also start with the 6 bullets in their gun. And so there's all these different things going on, and the mechanic of the game is really fun. Everybody plays their cards in order. Some of them face up, some of them face down, so you kind of see what's going on. and then you turn them all over and you just play out the scenario. This guy moves to this car, he moves to the roof, he shoots, he punches, he grabs loot. It's just hilarious and a lot of fun. Oh, one more thing. Each player has a different special power. That mixes the game up a little bit. So for example, this Tuco guy, he can shoot up through the roof. Normally you can only shoot to the car next to you, but this guy can shoot up or down. So if he's on the roof, he can shoot down at someone. Colt Express is probably in the $30 to $40 range, I want to say. Awesome game. It says 40 on the box, but if everyone knows what they're doing, you can actually get through a game of Colt Express in probably 30 minutes. Number 2, King of Tokyo. This is another one that they sell at Target. It's basically a version of King of the Hill and Godzilla and monsters going into Tokyo. The board is very small. This is the board here. Okay, so you've got Tokyo City, Tokyo Bay. This one goes up to 6 players, from 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, 30 minutes of playtime. I don't want to compare this to Yahtzee because it's not really like Yahtzee. It is in the sense that you roll dice and then you can re-roll some of the dice if you want to. But other than that, you're essentially these big dinosaurs, and everyone starts with 10 health and 0 victory points. And the first one to 20 or the last one standing wins. You've got this big monster like this. Someone's either in Tokyo City or out. And if you do 5 or 6 players, you can actually have 2 monsters, one in Tokyo Bay. And the monsters who are in the city, whenever you roll the attack die, it does damage to everyone else. And when you're outside of the city, when you roll the attack, you damage whoever's in the city. And so people are constantly moving in and out of the city because they don't want to die, because you can't heal while you're in the city. You've got one of the die here has a heart, and that lets you heal your monster. And so it's just a lot of fun. You roll the dice, you're attacking everyone, everyone's attacking you, you're healing, you're moving in and out of the city, trying to get to 20 points, or to try and knock the other monsters out by getting their health down to 0. What makes this more interesting is these green cubes, which is the other option on the die with the little lightnings. Those allow you to buy these cards, which give you extra powers for your monsters. For example, you buy this one, it costs 3 cubes, it deals 2 damage to all other monsters. So if someone's down to 2 health, you could buy this, knock them out of the game. There's a lot of different cards. It mixes the game up every time because you've always got 3 cards out here available for purchase, and anyone can purchase those, and it replenishes after someone buys a card. I have King of Tokyo, and I love it. Play it with my kids. And number 1, KuKu. KuKu is one of our favorite games. It goes from 2 to 6 players and takes 15 minutes of time to play. A lot of times the games are only 5 or 10 minutes. Very quick game. This game has a set of 15 cards. The theme of KuKu is that the government is collapsing and everyone is trying to take over the government. So each person influences 2 people on the high courts of the government, represented by these 2 cards. There are 5 different people. The Contessa blocks assassination. The ambassador lets you exchange your cards with the deck in the middle. There's an assassin that lets you take out someone else's influence. And there's a duke, which lets you take 3 coins from the middle. If you get up to 7 coins, you can launch a coup against someone else, which immediately takes out one of their 2 influences. So everyone has 2 cards in front of them, and they are taking any of the actions. And the fun part about it is it's essentially a social deductive reasoning game. It's also a bluffing game. So I can say, for example, I'm going to take 3 with my duke, whether I have a duke or not. Anyone can challenge me and say, I don't think you have a duke. But if I flip over a duke, then they lose one of theirs. And if I don't have a duke, then I lose one of my 2 cards. Last one standing wins. It plays very, very quickly. It's just a blast to play. And there's an expansion that takes it up to 10 players that you can get. This is a cheap game, 10 to 15 bucks at most. And I highly recommend KuKu. So these are 10 great games to get you started onto modern board gaming. They're a lot more fun than your traditional board games of Clue, Monopoly. Every one of these has an element of strategy in them. Everyone also plays in less than an hour. They're great games, they play quickly, there's high player interaction, The rules aren't very complicated either. They're easy to learn. Now, I do have an honorable mention. For my honorable mention, I want to say Pandemic. Now, the reason I did include this is because Pandemic says for ages 13 and up. A 7 or 8-year-old might be able to play it. It depends on the kid. Some kids catch on, some have a harder time. This one is one of my all-time favorite games. It's a cooperative game where you're trying to save the world from disease that's spreading everywhere. And each person has a different role that has different abilities, and you have all these disease cubes that spread throughout the world. It is for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 45 minutes, and here is the world. And so you've got all these cities across the world that are connected, and disease cubes will start spreading across the board, and you can run around and cure disease, fight the disease, trying to find the cures for all the diseases before time runs out. This one is a little bit more involved. It's cooperative, which is cool. Everyone's working together to save the world, and you all win or you all lose. So this is my honorable mention. This is a little bit more of the complex ones. It's won all kinds of awards. Great game of Pandemic. Thanks for watching my video. I hope this gives you some great ideas of where to start. And thanks to Pam for the comment and giving the idea for this video. And I will catch you next time. Bye guys.